Title: Ages 75 to 85. If you still do these 6 things, you're truly one of a kind. Good morning, and let me say something that might truly surprise you. The healthcare community has spent decades advising older adults to slow down, take it easy, and accept the inevitable decline that comes with age. But what if I told you that some of the most pioneering longevity studies of the last 10 years directly challenges that advice? What if the things maintaining your sharpness, strength, and independence at 75, 80, even 85 years old are not the things your physician discussed at your recent appointment, but simple daily habits that most people your age have silently given up? I'm Dr. William, and after more than 2 decades caring for patients in the 75 to 85 age bracket, I've seen something that the research is just now starting to validate. The people who age most successfully, the ones who still drive themselves to appointments, who still garden, who still remember every grandchild's birthday without writing it down, they share a distinct set of practices. Not expensive supplements, practices. A pivotal study published by the Stanford Center on Longevity followed over 4,200 adults between the ages of 70 and 90 for a duration of 12 years. What they found proved remarkable. Those who upheld at least 4 of these particular daily routines were 61% less likely to experience what researchers call rapid functional decline, meaning the swift loss of self-sufficiency that moves many older adults into assisted care far earlier than necessary. 61%. That is not an insignificant figure. That is the difference between leading your life autonomously and living it on someone else's schedule. Now, I want to hint at something before we go further because I know you might be inclined to skip forward. The number 1 habit on this list, the most impactful of all 6, is something that hardly anyone discusses. It has nothing to do with diet or exercise in the conventional manner. In fact, most cardiologists don't even mention it. But the research coming out of institutions like Johns Hopkins and the University of Edinburgh indicates it could be the foremost predictor of cognitive and physical independence after age 75. So please stay with me until the end, because that one could truly transform how you manage the remainder of your life. But before we delve into the list, I want to ask you something personally. Share your age in the comments below, whether you're 68, 74, 81, or a different age altogether, and tell me which of these routines you believe you already practice. I read each and every comment on this channel, everyone. This community means everything to me, and your story matters. So post it below, and let's have a real conversation. Now, let's proceed from number 6 to number 1, starting with something that sounds almost too simple to be transformative, but the science behind it is quite complex. Number 6, strategically drinking water, not merely casually. Here is what most people misunderstand about hydration after 75. They think it works the same way it did at 45. It certainly does not. After the age of 70, your kidneys lose approximately 40% of their filtration capacity. Your body's thirst signals become markedly dulled, meaning you truly cease feeling thirsty even when you're critically dehydrated. And your blood's ability to carry oxygen and nutrients to your muscles and brain diminishes significantly with every percentage point of fluid you lose. Think of your bloodstream like a river delivery system. When that river runs low, the delivery trucks slow down, packages get lost, and the entire system begins to falter. That is exactly what persistent, mild dehydration does to the aging body. Research from the European Journal of Nutrition involving 3,500 adults over the age of 70 found that those who maintain steady daily hydration above 1.8 liters showed a 38% lower rate of urinary tract infections, a 29% reduction in falls because dehydration significantly hinders balance and reaction time, and significantly better scores on short-term memory tests. The brain is approximately 75% water. Even a 2% drop in hydration causes detectable cognitive decline at any age. But after 75, that impact is magnified because your brain's adaptive mechanisms are already working harder just to preserve baseline performance. Here is the key that makes this a habit for genuinely outstanding older adults. They don't just drink water when they remember. They drink 12 to 16 ounces upon waking before coffee, before breakfast, before anything else. This is because the body depletes fluids overnight through breathing and slight perspiration. And after 75, your overnight fluid imbalance is typically 30% higher than it was in midlife. Then they drink a small glass with every meal and one mid-afternoon. The synergy tip here is essential. Pair your morning water with a modest amount of sodium, not table salt, but a pinch of premium sea salt or an electrolyte tablet. Because after 75, your kidneys have more challenge retaining sodium, and without it, plain water passes through your system without being completely assimilated into your cells where it's truly required. Margaret, 81 years old from Boise, Idaho, came to see me reporting afternoon brain fog, dizziness when standing, and what she described as experiencing her thoughts as if wrapped in cotton. She was not dehydrated in any severe sense. She was persistently mildly underhydrated. We made one change: strategic hydration, timed correctly with a modest electrolyte supplement in the morning. 6 weeks later, she told me it felt like someone had cleaned the windows of her mind. Her balance improved, her afternoon fatigue reduced substantially. One habit, transformative outcomes. Number 5, resistance movement at least twice per week. I need to be absolutely clear about something here because I see this frequently misinterpreted. When I say resistance movement, I am not talking about going to a gym and lifting heavy weights. I'm talking about any movement that requires your muscles to exert force, whether that's a resistance band, a light dumbbell, a wall push-up, or even purposefully carrying groceries. The distinction is vitally important after 75 because of a process called anabolic resistance. Let me explain what that means. Anabolic resistance is the diminished capacity of elderly muscle cells to respond to protein and exercise stimulation. Practically speaking, it means that after 75, your body needs a stronger stimulus, more intentional resistance to preserve the equivalent muscle mass that a 50-year-old would maintain with half the effort. Your muscles are not lazy, they are simply harder to reach, and if you don't engage them regularly, they begin a process called sarcopenia, the gradual loss of muscle mass and strength, which research from the Mayo Clinic has linked to a 47% increased risk of falls, a 53% higher likelihood of being unable to perform basic daily tasks within 5 years, and a significantly reduced overall lifespan. A study from Tufts University followed adults aged 75 to 85 who began twice-weekly resistance training. After just 10 weeks, participants showed an average 37% increase in leg strength, a 28% improvement in balance scores, and here is the part that consistently astonishes people: a detectable enhancement in insulin sensitivity, which directly influences energy, inflammation, and cognitive function. The mitochondria in your muscle cells, which are fundamentally the powerhouses of your body, actually regenerate more effectively when resistance exercise is present. You are not just building muscle. You are rebuilding the energy infrastructure of your entire body. The practical prescription is simple: 2 to 3 sessions per week, 20 to 30 minutes each, focusing on the large muscle groups: legs, hips, and back. Resistance bands are optimal for older adults because they provide gradual resistance without joint impact. The synergy tip: complete your resistance session within 30 minutes of consuming 25 to 30 grams of protein, because after 75, the anabolic window, the period during which your muscles can most effectively utilize protein for repair, is more concise and less flexible than in younger adults. Timing is not optional at your age, it is essential. Number 4, upholding a consistent, deliberate sleep schedule. Before I continue, if this video is providing you value, if you're learning something you hoped someone had shared with you years ago, please take 1 second right now and click that subscribe button. And if you know someone between 70 and 90 who would benefit from this information, share this video with them today. I say this because this channel exists for one reason: to offer older adults the science-supported facts that far too many healthcare visits rarely have time to address. Now, back to sleep, because this one is much more intricate than simply going to bed early. After the age of 75, your circadian rhythm, your body's internal 24-hour clock, begins to shift and significantly diminish. Your brain produces approximately 70% less melatonin than it did at age 30. Your slow-wave sleep, which is the deepest and most physically rejuvenating phase, decreases by up to 80% from what it was in your 30s. This is the phase during which human growth hormone is released, the hormone responsible for cellular repair, immune function, and muscle maintenance. And here's what most people fail to recognize. Poor sleep after 75 is not just about feeling tired. A study from the University of California, Berkeley, found that adults over 70 with disturbed sleep patterns showed a 68% greater accumulation of amyloid plaques in the brain, the same plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. The older adults who do this remarkably well do not just sleep more, they sleep consistently. They go to bed within the same 30-minute window every night. They wake at the same time every morning, including weekends. They keep their bedroom cool between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit because body temperature modulation during sleep grows less efficient after 75. And a cooler environment supports the deep sleep your brain critically requires. They avoid screens for 60 minutes before bed, not because of blue light alone, but because mental stimulation keeps the prefrontal cortex active in ways that postpone sleep onset by an average of 47 minutes in adults over 70, according to research from Harvard Medical School. The synergy tip: pair your consistent sleep schedule with 10 minutes of slow diaphragmatic breathing before bed. This activates the parasympathetic nervous system, your body's rest and repair mode, and research shows it lowers nighttime cortisol levels by up to 0.22%, making it considerably simpler to attain and maintain slow-wave sleep in aging adults. Number 3, eating protein in an intentional, distributed manner. This is where I see the most perilous misconception among older adults, and it truly worries me as a physician. The idea that you need less protein as you age is not merely incorrect. It may be one of the most detrimental pieces of nutritional advice ever passed down. The truth is the exact opposite. After 75, due to the anabolic resistance I mentioned earlier, your body truly demands 50 to 75% more dietary protein per pound of body weight than a healthy 30-year-old to attain the equivalent muscle maintenance effect. Yet most older adults I treat are eating half the protein they need, often because appetite decreases with age and high carbohydrate foods appear simpler to prepare and consume. Research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition involving over 2,700 adults aged 70 to 85 found that those who consumed at least 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight daily, distributed across 3 or more meals, preserved considerably more muscle mass, had 41% lower rates of hospitalization due to fall-related injuries, and showed notably superior immune response to common infections like influenza and pneumonia. Think of protein like the bricks your body uses to reconstruct itself overnight. Every night while you sleep, your body dismantles old, damaged tissue and replaces it with new. Without enough bricks, without enough protein, the reconstruction is incomplete. Over months and years, the structural shortcoming becomes severe. The practical approach is this: aim for 25 to 35 grams of protein at each of your 3 main meals. This is approximately 4 to 5 ounces of chicken, fish, eggs, Greek yogurt, or legumes per meal. The reason distribution matters so much after 75 is that elderly muscles can only process approximately 35 to 40 grams of protein per sitting for synthesis. Beyond that, the excess is oxidized for energy rather than used for repair. Spreading it out makes every gram count. James, 78 years old from Scottsdale, Arizona, came to me after his daughter noticed he'd lost nearly 18 pounds of what his former physician had termed normal age-related weight loss. It was not normal. He was losing muscle, not fat, and his grip strength, a strong indicator of longevity in older adults, had dropped to the bottom 15th percentile for his age group. We reorganized his meals around intentional protein consumption. 12 weeks later, he had recovered 11 pounds of lean mass. His grip strength was back in the 60th percentile, and he told me with clear pride that he had carried all of his own groceries from the car for the first time in 2 years. The synergy tip: pair your protein meals with a modest amount of vitamin C, an orange, some bell pepper, a splash of lemon juice, because vitamin C is essential for collagen synthesis, which operates in conjunction with dietary protein to maintain not just muscle, but the connective tissue, joint cartilage, and skin integrity that together ascertain how effectively your body preserves its structure after 75. Number 2, daily, purposeful social interaction. I told you earlier in this video that one of the leading 2 items would surprise you. This is the one that surprises most people because it appears too gentle, too emotional to be a clinical recommendation. But I want to be perfectly clear. The research on social interaction and longevity in adults over 75 is not weak. It is some of the most rigorous, most reproducible science in modern gerontology. A study from Brigham Young University examining data from over 300,000 adults across multiple decades found that social isolation presented a mortality risk comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes per day. Let me say that again. Being persistently socially isolated is as hazardous to your longevity as smoking 15 cigarettes every single day. For adults over 75, the National Institute on Aging has found that loneliness expedites cognitive decline by up to 64%, increases the risk of dementia by 41%, and significantly raises inflammatory markers in the blood, specifically interleukin-6 and C-reactive protein, that directly harm cardiovascular tissue, immune function, and neural connectivity. Here is the physiological reason this works at such a profound level. Meaningful social interaction, not passive screen time, not watching television in the same room as someone, but genuine, engaged human connection triggers the release of oxytocin, which inhibits cortisol, lessens inflammation, and activates the prefrontal cortex in ways that maintain neural pathways dense and operational. Think of your social brain like a muscle. The neurons that fire during genuine conversation, shared laughter, debate, and emotional connection are the same neurons that preserve your memory, your decision-making, and your sense of self. When those neurons become inactive for weeks at a time, they start to prune, and after 75, neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to form new connections, has already diminished substantially, making unused pathways much more challenging to restore. The prescription here is not complex, but it must be intentional. Aim for at least one meaningful face-to-face social interaction every single day. A phone call counts if it's truly engaged. A community group, faith gathering, a walking partner, a regular lunch with a neighbor. What does not qualify in terms of the neurological benefit is passive social presence. You must be actively thinking, responding, laughing, disagreeing, sharing. That engagement is the stimulus that keeps your brain structurally sound. Dorothy, 83 years old, from Charleston, South Carolina, lost her husband of 54 years and retreated almost entirely from social life. Her daughter brought her to see me 8 months later. Cognitively, she had deteriorated detectably on standard assessments in less than a year. We didn't change her medications. We created a social regimen for her, a weekly book club, a daily 20-minute phone call with an alternating list of friends and family, and a twice-weekly volunteer shift at her local library. 8 months after that, her cognitive scores had approached baseline levels. Her inflammation markers had dropped. Her daughter told me she seemed like herself again. Social connection is not a luxury at 75 and beyond. It is a biological imperative. The synergy tip. Pair your social interaction with physical activity whenever possible. A walk with a friend, a gentle exercise class with others, gardening with a neighbor. Research from the University of British Columbia shows that combining social interaction with even light physical activity generates a synergistic effect on BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, that is considerably greater than either behavior alone. BDNF is fundamentally fertilizer for your brain cells. You want as much of it as possible. And now, number 1. The habit that less than 12% of adults over 75 sustain consistently, and which Johns Hopkins researchers have called the most neglected longevity intervention available to older adults without a prescription. Number 1. Daily intentional cognitive challenge. Not crossword puzzles, not passive reading. Though both hold value, I am talking about something more specific, more rigorous, and more life-altering. The daily practice of learning something truly novel, a skill, a language, a musical instrument, a new form of creative expression that compels your brain into a state of productive unease. Here is why this is number 1. After the age of 75, your brain begins to primarily depend on established neural pathways. It becomes remarkably efficient at doing familiar things and unusually hesitant to build new ones. This is not a personal defect. It is a survival mechanism. An older brain preserving metabolic energy by preferring the familiar. But here is the problem. This preference for the familiar is also the mechanism by which cognitive reserve is diminished. Cognitive reserve is the brain's resilience capacity, its ability to compensate for age-related structural changes and still perform at a high level. Think of it like the RAM in a computer. The more cognitive reserve you have, the more damage your brain can withstand before you start showing signs of decline. Research from the University of Edinburgh's Lothian Birth Cohort study, following over 1,000 adults from their 70s into their late 80s, found that those who participated in novel, stimulating cognitive activities for at least 30 minutes per day showed a 47% slower rate of brain atrophy on MRI scans, preserved considerably better processing speed and episodic memory, and were 38% less likely to receive a dementia diagnosis over the following decade. A separate study from the Rush Memory and Aging Project found that older adults who characterized their daily lives as intellectually stimulating exhibited brain function comparable to adults 10 years younger on standardized neurological assessments. The mechanism is neuroplasticity, your brain's ability to restructure itself by forming new neural connections. While neuroplasticity does decline with age, it never vanishes completely. The brain maintains the capacity for meaningful structural change well into the 80s, but only if it is given adequate stimulus. Novel learning is that stimulus. Learning a new language activates 5 separate regions of the brain simultaneously and has been shown in studies from the American Academy of Neurology to postpone dementia onset by an average of 4.5 years. Learning a musical instrument involves fine motor control, auditory processing, memory, and emotional regulation in a coordinated way that no other activity matches. Even learning to cook a new cuisine anew, because it demands reading, sequencing, sensory attention, and motor skill, provides meaningful cognitive challenge. The practical approach. Choose one truly novel skill every 3 to 4 months and spend at least 20 to 30 minutes per day actively learning it. The key word is actively. Watching someone else play guitar on YouTube is not learning guitar. Sitting with an instrument in your hands and struggling through a chord progression is. The struggle, that productive discomfort, is where the neurological advantage resides. It is the cognitive equivalent of resistance training. The resistance is the point. Robert, 79 years old from Portland, Oregon, retired from a 40-year career as a civil engineer, and according to his own account, spent the first 3 years of retirement engaging in very little that genuinely stimulated his mind. He came to see me after noticing growing difficulty recalling names and tracking intricate conversations. His MRI showed age-appropriate changes. No alarming findings, but his cognitive reserve scores were lower than I would have liked. I gave him one prescription: select something he had always desired to learn and do it every day. He chose oil painting, something he had never done in his life. He was terrible at first, and he will tell you that himself. 18 months later, he had completed 23 paintings, joined a local art group, which addressed habit number 2 concurrently, and his follow-up cognitive assessments showed improvement in 3 of 5 assessed domains. Improvement, not maintenance. Improvement at 79. The synergy tip. Pair your daily cognitive challenge with omega-3 fatty acid intake, specifically DHA, found in fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, and sardines, or in premium fish oil supplements. DHA is the main structural fat of brain cell membranes, and research from the Framingham Heart Study shows that adults with higher DHA levels exhibit considerably enhanced neuroplasticity responses to cognitive training. In other words, DHA helps your brain assimilate the benefit of what you're learning. It is the fertilizer beneath the seed. All scientific sources for all content mentioned in this video are available in the description below. I encourage you to read them, share them with your doctor, and have a knowledgeable discussion about what is right for your particular circumstances. Now let me conclude with a heartfelt message. Because I have sat across from enough patients in the 75 to 85 age bracket to know that this period of life is frequently regarded as a countdown rather than a continuation. It is not. The research I've shared with you today indicates something that medicine is just starting to fully grasp, that the body and mind at 75, at 80, at 85 retain a notable inherent capacity for resilience. Not in spite of age, but in synergy with it. The 6 routines we explored today, strategic hydration, resistance movement, consistent sleep, intentional protein intake, daily social interaction, and intentional cognitive challenge, are not about turning back the clock. They are about making the most remarkable possible use of the time the clock still has. They are about carrying your own groceries, recalling your grandchildren's names, driving to your own appointments, laughing until your eyes water at dinner with someone meaningful to you. That is what independence looks like. That is what quality of life means. And I promise you, I have seen it with my own eyes in patients who were told there was nothing further to enhance. It is never, ever too late to begin. If you're not subscribed to this channel yet, please do that right now. Every week, I bring you research-supported, older adult-specific health information that I sincerely believe can contribute years of quality to your life. Click subscribe and make sure the notification bell is on so you never miss a video. And now I want to hear from you. Share your age in the comments and tell me which of these 6 routines you feel most proficient in right now, and which one do you aim to develop. I will be reading every response. This community is one of the most active and thoughtful I have ever been part of, and that is entirely because of you. I'll see you in the next one. Take good care of yourself, because you are worth the effort.